Hello, thank you for being here. Thank you for attending my talk. It's my pleasure to be here in Porto, Portugal. It's actually my first time in this country. Not my first time at NDC, because I was a speaker at NDC several times in different locations, but first time in Porto, and I love this city so far. My talk is going to be about kind of futuristic technology and what's going to happen in our world, I would say, when it comes to technology. And the name is From Flatland to Spaceland. And this is kind of a paraphrase to the book called The Flatland. Not sure if you know. It's written by Edwin Abbott. It's from 19th century. And it tells a story about the inhabitants of the flatland, the flat world, where everything has only two dimensions. So every creature that lives in the flatland is a two-dimensional figure. And in one day, there is this alien coming to this world, and this is a sphere, three-dimensional alien. And what that sphere appears to the inhabitants of this flatland is only a circle, because when this sphere comes to this flat world, the only thing that the flatlanders see is the intersection of the sphere and the flatland, right? So they're kind of, they don't know what they're dealing with. There's this new creature, but they don't know who they deal with. And this is kind of a paraphrase to what we're dealing with when it comes to interacting with any technology, because from the time when we were given computers, personal computers, smartphones, etc., all we deal with and the way we interact with the technology is always through the two-dimensional flat screen. So anything, even if something is 3D, we deal with the projection of it to the screen, correct? And it feels like it. It's not immersive enough. And my story is about that it's going to change, and it's changing, right? And that's why it's a journey from Flatland to Spaceland. A little bit about myself. I'm Rafał Legiędź. You can find me on the internet at Rafek. And I'm a software consultant responsible for mixed reality solutions in the consultancy firm Avenga. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in mixed reality for 4 years. And I'm also a conference organizer of the conference called DevConf in Poland. Enough about me. I do those speeches about AR, VR, metaverse, or whatnot around those topics since 2017. And those are usually mostly software development conferences, and the crowd is usually very tech-savvy people. But what I noticed through all those 4 or 5 years is that like not many of those people are into AR, VR, and those technologies. So usually, I mean, it happens that people sometimes talk about augmented reality when they actually mean VR, and vice versa. Someone says something about VR, etc., but actually he's describing some AR experience. And it's kind of common. So usually what I do is this first slide where I explain this basic thing about concepts, what AR is and VR is. So to begin with, VR is virtual reality. So those are all the experiences where you put some kind of a headset on your head, be it like HTC Vive, Oculus Quest, Oculus Rift, etc., or Valve Index. And your view is fully occluded by this device. So you don't see your physical world. The only thing you see is this artificial world rendered by whatever application you were using, right? So your mind is kind of, I mean, the immersion nowadays is so good that your mind is kind of tricked into thinking that you're actually in this artificial world. Your senses are kind of cut out from whatever is happening in your like real vicinity. And you probably saw those funny videos on YouTube where like someone is playing VR game and someone else is poking that person and the person can freak out. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, does everyone tried VR already? Like played this in game? Not yet? So there are still people who haven't played VR yet. So it's still not mainstream. That's why I keep telling the differences. And when it comes to AR, for example, this is augmented reality. So the difference is that we still see our physical environment. So we see the floors, walls, other people. So we won't kill each other, like stumbling on someone when playing some game or being in some experience, or won't hurt each other, although that can happen. And those kind of experiences, they can be on some kind of headsets or mobile phones, tablets, or whatnot. So for the headsets, it's usually like you put the headset on, you see your area around, and then you have some 3D objects rendered here and there and can interact with them. That could be achieved in both ways. Either you have a headset with the transparent screen, kind of a holographic screens where you see everything like through the regular glasses, and then you have some stuff rendered around, or something which is called pass-through AR, which is basically a regular like OLED screen in front of your eyes, like a VR headset, and then the cameras in front of the headset, and you have this pass-through video stream through the headset, and then on top of that, there are 3D stuff rendered. Also, there are AR experiences on our mobile phones and tablets, and that basically works like you take your phone, you fire up the application, you see everything through the video stream, and then on top of that, there are 3D content rendered. The difference is that on the mobile phones and tablets, we don't have this level of immersion, obviously, right? But it's something. And the plan with this presentation is that I'm going to show you that, okay, there's also one part to this slide, that through all those years, I keep meeting people that are like, hey, we had VR like 30 years ago. I tried this kind of a headset in like 1997, and I've been there, and I know it doesn't work. So, I mean, you're telling me some kind of weird stories right now. I mean, we've been there. And also people like, hey, I've seen Google Glasses like 12 years ago when Google released it. I mean, there was like all the hype in the world. Not sure if you remember how Google Glasses were hyped, right? But it was the real thing. And people were thinking like, wait, we're like stepping into the future because we will have like all the data in front of our eyes. And I mean, everything will change. But the thing is that the world was still not there. Like it was too early, like hardware-wise, people-wise, like how we think about like cameras everywhere or something like that. Because imagine this one simple difference. For example, Google Glass was released like 2010 or something like that, and it was also like early days of smartphones and social media. And all of a sudden, we have people with cameras in their glasses, right? And we weren't even used to people like shooting videos of everything. And right now, like after 10 years of having like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, etc., like everyone is shooting videos like every single moment, right? So it's not even like weird that we see videos of like random people falling from the stairs or whatever on the internet, right? So that was the difference. And then we had those glasses. And right now we think about such things in a very different way, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's good or not, but I mean, we changed as a society, right? And also hardware-wise. I mean, the way hardware progressed through the last 10 years is just enormous, right? We have like all sorts of sensors right now, like computing power in small chips and cloud with even more computing power, etc., and 5G and whatnot. So it's a completely different story. And what I wanted to show you with this talk is that it's not that like there's some startup in the world that is doing some VR headset and maybe it will break to the mainstream or something like that. That I'm just wanted to show that all those big companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, they're all investing in AR and VR, and it's a real thing, and it's going to happen sooner or later, and it started happening. So I'm going to start with Facebook. Well, it's called Meta right now, and with the change of the name, they're actually they're not hiding it anymore, that they're into VR, AR, and metaverse, and whatever you would like to call it. But back in 2018, when they were still called Facebook, they announced that they do work on some kind of AR glasses. And a few years even later, they acquired Oculus, which was like the major manufacturer of the most common VR headset. And well, what they did since then is, well, that was 2018, so that's like fast forward 4 years, we still don't have AR glasses from Facebook or Meta. But what they did for that time is pretty impressive, actually, because they iterated, they released the like independent VR headset called Oculus Quest, and well, it's now called Meta Quest because Oculus is also Meta. That was like an independent device. You don't have to tether it to a computer. You don't have to have like an external computing unit, and you just put your the headset on, fire up the game or any experience, and that was it, right? And it looked or still looks like this. I'm gonna show the video. And the beautiful thing they did. The beautiful thing they did is that the headset wasn't that expensive. It was like around $300, and that was all you needed. You didn't need super powerful computing unit like a PC and tether to it. But what they also did, they hardware-wise, they put like lots of stuff into the headset, but they didn't unlock it at the very beginning. And they keep unlock some features like hand tracking, for example. That was a long time ago. But still, at the very beginning, we didn't have hand tracking. But after some time, just with the software update, they unlocked hand tracking. And all of a sudden, in the games, instead of having controllers, you could have only your hands, right? And that was also unlocked within like developers SDKs, so that any experience that you were creating was able to use this. Also, the other iteration of the software update was
with my
unlocking
real furniture.
Pass-through AR.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Isn't
still
this extremely
like
cool?
in the
Imagine
experimental
the
mode, and
possibilities
it's
that
black and
devs
white,
can do with your
just
house
proves the
and
concept
just
that you can
allow you to
have
play
the
games
pass-through
there or
video
something.
stream, and then on top of that, render 3D content. And that unlocks those scenarios with pass-through AR, which kind of omit all the problems with AR headsets, because the biggest problem with AR headsets is to create those like glass-looking displays like HoloLens have, for example. So there are pass-through like transparent, just with like big field of view, which is the biggest problem right now when it comes to this market. And with pass-through AR, you basically use like a high-end OLED screen in front of your eyes, and that's it. It's not as good as pass-through as regular like AR, but it's still good enough. And also, they're experimenting with things that could
in VR
come
will
in
be
handy
useful,
in
and
like
you'll
work
also be able to track
environments. So,
a
for example,
keyboard
they are
in virtual
iterating all
reality.
those office
More specifically, the
features
Logitech
where you can bring, for example, your
K830
table
keyboard, which is the only
to the
supported
VR
keyboard right
experience,
now,
or your
but this
keyboard
could be
to the
fully
VR
tracked in
experience,
VR,
and
showing a virtual
your sofa to
representation
the
of the
VR
keyboard,
experience, so that you
along
can
with
have your
hands
headset
in some
on.
kind of
You have this
pass-through mode.
artificial
And
environment, but
together
still you can
will
see
make
your
typing in
sofa
VR
and table.
much,
So I
much
don't know, if you
easier.
have your phone in your hand,
Oculus
you can
state that
put it
they'll
on
be
the
supporting more keyboards
on the
in
table
the
or
future,
sit on the
but I've got
sofa,
one of
and you
these
can
Logitech
actually
keyboards
see
on
that
order,
within
so
VR
as soon as it
experience.
arrives, I'll test it out and share with you how well it works. Obviously, right now, there's not much you can do with this function.
So they're pushing it pretty hard, and the route that Facebook or Meta is taking is kind of twofold, like two ways. One way is pushing those VR headsets and getting all the technology done and all the experiments, like with Oculus Quest 1, and then they ended up releasing the second version of Oculus Quest, which actually sold in pretty wide numbers, like 6 million headsets or something like that. Like, it was not that bad. It was like they reached this number in like 1 year, which PSVR, which was like the most common VR headsets before, sold in this number in 5 years. So that's this difference. And then right now they're working on next headset, which is like they told that it's maybe going to be released this year or next year. It's called Project Cambria, which, as they claim, is going to be more work focused than game focused. But they're iterating on those VR line, and then on the other hand, they have this other line of products where they it was like last year where they cooperated with Ray-Ban, you know, the brand from the regular glasses, and they released the Ray-Ban Facebook glasses. And it's not an AR headset of any sort, but what they started doing is that they started putting like cameras and like speakers and, you know, in a nicely designed glasses so that they can iterate on it as well on the other path, and maybe they will meet somewhere in the middle and create some AR headset, which is actually what they revealed, called the Project Nazareth. And well, you can Google it up. With Ray-Ban, actually the glasses are basically for like recording stories, you know, Instagram or Facebook stories, right? So you can basically record the story from your glasses and then just put it online. So it's like way easier than, oh, something fun is happening, I'm just gonna grab my phone and record. You can just do it like this. So it's like a better version of Google Glasses, I would say. Next is Microsoft, from those big companies I'm gonna talk about. And they are not that visible on the consumer market. I mean, they used to be when it comes to AR or similar technologies, because they used to have Microsoft Kinect for Xbox. You probably remember that, right? There was like the first version, the second version. It was pretty quite cool tool to play with. But it didn't stay with us eventually. But what Microsoft did is actually they started HoloLens project in like more than 12 years ago, and Kinect was actually the beginnings of HoloLens, because that's the technology which was iterated and then happened to become HoloLens. And right now we have like a second version of HoloLens, and those glasses are like enterprise grade AR headset, which is like an also like Quest independent piece of device that does not need an external computing unit. It has transparent screens so that you can see everything around you, and then there is some other stuff rendered on top of your physical environment. It runs on Windows 10, and you need Windows SDK to develop on it, and you just use also like Unity to run software. It has like hand tracking, eyes tracking, like head movements tracking, and all those fancy sensors inside. And how it looks like, have you ever heard of HoloLens, or have you tried? I know you did. Anyone else? No? Okay. So, yeah, and it's still like interesting because like HoloLens are on the market since like 2016, the first version. And I mean, there are actually already like job positions out there in the world for like HoloLens developers. And still there are a bunch of developers that I keep meeting on conferences that haven't heard about HoloLens, which is like a wonderful piece of device. And I think Microsoft is not doing like the great job, like putting into the world to the hands of developers so that they can actually work with it. But well, to start working on it, on the solutions for HoloLens, you don't actually have to have the headset itself, because well, it's not that cheap of a device, because it's $3,500. So not great, not terrible, I would say. But still, it's not like $300 Oculus Quest or Meta Quest. However, with all the like emulators, simulators available in the software packages for HoloLenses, you can actually start creating those experiences without having the device itself. And what I'm going to show you right now is those are samples from MRTK, which is Mixed Reality Toolkit. Toolkit created by Microsoft, which is open source, and it helps creating the applications for mixed reality, especially for HoloLens. But based on this toolkit, you can also create AR experiences for iOS, Android, or VR experiences for Quest. But this video shows what kind of interactions you can have with this device. Because like you can see the physical environment of that person that runs the application, and then you can see the hands are being tracked, right? There are rays that are coming from your fingers, and you can grab virtual objects, and you can detect the tables, the surfaces. You can stick something on the surfaces, on the walls, etc. You can build like complex UI systems, like full applications. And actually, it's not that very difficult, I would say. This headset, I mean, at least in my bubble, where I work and people I talk with, is the most common one when it comes to enterprise market. So there are like hundreds of companies already that are incorporating HoloLens-based solutions into their like line of business. And the most popular one I see is and that's kind of a pattern. It's so common worldwide. Is that you have this experience for your like service workers? So they put their headset on, they approach some kind of device or equipment, and then like instructions for this equipment like appears in front of their eyes, or the instructions are rendered on top of this physical equipment, and then there are some animations being run so that that person knows what to do, right? It's getting more and more common nowadays. This tool is free. You can actually like download Unity, download Windows SDK and MRTK, and there is like bunch of tutorials on the Windows in Microsoft the documentation for mixed reality. You can basically start creating those kind of experiences like today. Okay. I'm going to show you also because that's eye tracking is interesting. So imagine like how eye tracking works. If you have the map, you can basically like whenever you're looking near one of the edge of the map, it automatically scrolls. And when you move your eyes to the other end, it stops and it scrolls the other way. The same with the text. If you read the text and you move your eyes as you read the text, when you reach the bottom of the text, it starts automatically scrolling so that you never reach the bottom actually until you actually end reading. This is pretty fun. So yeah, that's Microsoft, and then next is Apple. Well, they haven't announced yet that they are doing like officially AR headsets, but there are like several signs here and there that obviously is going to happen sooner or later. Well, we all know Apple, they're not like, if they're going to release something, it's probably going to be like a well-designed and well-done product. So I think that's the reason they're not pushing anything like half products into the market. They're just doing the job under the hood so that they will put something on the market that is actually usable. That's my assumption. Anyway, there are like several signs that they're working on it, like people going through the source codes of whatever Apple is releasing, and they found signs of a thing that is going to be called Reality OS, right? Well, what that might mean, right? Also, Apple has like several tools like ARKit, Reality Composer, that allows you to create AR experiences for tablets and iPhones. And ARKit has already it's already the 5th version, so they keep iterating on it, and they add more and more features. Also, if you would look at iPhones and iPads as well, we got more and more sensors. So one of the recent additions is, for example, LiDAR sensor for like depth sensing, for even better like scanning of the environment. So it's happening. And how does it look? When it comes to ARKit and experiences on the mobiles, it looks more or less like this.
On the screen of an iPad, a woman walks through a living room.
So you can see, for example, we have like virtual chess, and physical person, and like the virtual thing can occlude physical person and vice versa, right? And that means you need to have like a proper depth sensing so that you know what's where in the scene. We have like body motion tracking, and most importantly, we have all the light estimation, surface detection, physics, so that, for example, you can have real table and cast all the shadows and have things that are on this table that can be dropped from this table, and all the rendered stuff can get light estimation from the environment so that you can light those virtual stuff in the similar way that you have light in your room, so that it adds and adds more and more immersion, and it looks really good. Next is Google. When it comes to Google, it's what I mentioned before. They had Google Glasses 12 years ago, and that was a nice story. But Google Glasses apparently did have like a second life within the enterprise area, where they released like Google Glass 2 for enterprise. But I don't think it lasted very long. But anyway, for Google, they have a very similar thing as Apple has for iPhones and iPads. They have AR Core, which basically is very similar to what I've just shown you with AR Kit. And obviously, there are a bunch of startups, smaller and bigger companies out there that are creating all kinds of headsets, AR headsets, VR headsets, and some of them are like very specialized for achieving one particular goal. Some of them are like only for like reading like timelines of social media, and some of them are like trying to be as good as HoloLens, for example. One of the examples is Magic Leap, which is like the biggest competitor for HoloLens, and similar price-wise and capabilities-wise. And not that long time ago, the second version of Magic Leap was announced. It's basically like HoloLens from Microsoft, but it's from this company Magic Leap, and it's very similar. But design-wise, they decided to move the computing unit from your head, and it's kind of tethered to this small package. It's basically put, like I have this one, put here, and that's the computing unit, so that the whole glasses are lighter. As simple as that. That's the computing unit. And the first version of Magic Leap, it worked very similar to HoloLens. In addition, it does have this pilot thing. And yeah, so as you can see, well, I'm not going to give any more examples of headsets, because it's kind of clear that something is going on, and we actually have a great selection of devices that we can actually buy, try, and create proof of concepts and sell products, etc. One other thing, which is kind of interesting, I want to show you, is that it doesn't end there. There are companies which are like taking like few steps to the future, and it's not like science fiction movie that, well, we probably will have contact lenses in the future, but it actually happens right now. And one of the companies is Mojo Lens. They are creating these contact lenses for augmented reality.
Modern technology promises to keep us more connected.
Obviously, it's a prototype. It's an early product. It's not like
we've lost them.
You can't buy it, and
Imagine if we could
it has
replace our
its
screens with something
limitations,
that informs
obviously.
without
But the
distraction.
thing is
Could we see differently,
that
more clearly,
there are those
Could it help
things,
us
and
find that
companies that are
invisible edge
working
when
and
we need it most?
iterating on it,
or
so that
allow
it
us
will
to
happen
connect in crucial
eventually.
moments, providing vital information in an instant? Introducing Mojo Lens, the world's first augmented reality.
Just imagine,
smart
I watched this
contact.
video on how they're
Mojo Lens
solving
on in the morning
eye tracking,
and
because
throughout your
for all
day,
the
you'll have
headsets, like
access
VR
to
headsets and
timely
AR
information
headsets,
without losing focus
eye
on the
tracking
world
is
around
done
you.
by just
Mojo Lens is
tracking
designed
your
not to
eyes movement
bombard
with some
you
kind of
with data,
sensors.
but to elevate
And
your
in this
vision by
case, well,
providing
you
the
have a
information
contact
you need
lens.
exactly
So
when
how
it's
do you
needed,
track
all while letting you
movement
look
of
like
your
yourself.
eyes? So they
When
have
it's not in
to
use,
have all
the
the motion
technology just
sensors
fades
inside
away.
those
We call this
contact
concept
lenses, and that's how they
invisible
track movement of your
Mojo's
eyes.
invisible computing
It's kind of a
solution will be
completely
a
different
platform
problem
that gives you
that
everyday
eyes tracking
superpowers
in the
and an
headset.
invisible edge
You know?
throughout your day. But before it does any of that, it first has to be a great contact lens.
And
that improves
imagine
your natural
with
vision even
those
less off.
lenses,
Mojo
you can
Lens
have
built-in
AR
display
experience when
will give
you
you
have your
augmented
eyes
reality
open,
wherever you
and when you
look.
close your
And
eyes,
even
you have a
works with your
VR
eyes closed,
experience.
putting
As
you
simple
into
as
an
that.
instant VR world.
It's 2 in 1.
The applications are nearly limitless, from being able to see in the dark or low light situations, to augmenting your memory with instant information, showing you real-time translations, or giving you a virtual teleprompter. One of our first medical applications is using AR overlays like edge detection and contrast enhancements to help people with
The
vision impairments
interface
such as
in
glaucoma
applications
and
for
macular
the
degeneration.
for the lenses like this is
Building the
basically
world's
like on
first AR contact
Google
lens is a
Glasses
systems
back then.
engineering
I mean,
problem. And
simple
therefore, we've had to innovate in many different areas.
simple windows
The
with
Mojo
like
Lens
text, so you
includes
can read the
thin-film,
text message or
biosafe batteries
hear
to power the
notification that
system,
your Uber driver
as well as
arrived
motion
or
sensors to enable the
alarm
world's
clock or
most
whatever.
accurate eye
But still,
tracking. We've also
right?
developed an
It's
extremely
possible.
low-power image sensor that's used for computer vision.
As you can see, I mean, it does have
But
batteries,
at the
motion
heart of the
sensors,
Mojo
and
Lens is the
an OLED
world's
screen, right?
smallest and
I mean, what can
densest
go wrong?
dynamic display. With this, we can display crisp text, photos, and video in a package that's less than 0.5 millimeter in diameter. We are often asked, how do you control Mojo Lens? And the answer is with your eyes. It turns out that your eye is an extremely accurate pointing device. With our built-in eye tracking in each lens, we believe we've unlocked the ultimate hands-free user
If you
interface.
watch Black Mirror, we're not that far away from there, right? So there's one other short video I wanted to show you
If you
that
look
it's
at
not a new
Mojo
thing.
timeline,
It's like
this lens is
the prototypes
next
were there for a
iterative
longer time.
process. This lens design, according to them, does have the motion tracking capabilities. It also has tiny batteries, like the type that are in pacemakers, a little array of them.
So yeah, there's that. Okay, numbers. The good thing about all what I said is that it's not gimmick. It's not that it's only games and we are enterprise developers, I assume, and it's not for us. The market needs and estimation for AR and VR keep growing, and as you can see, the green part of this diagram is actually not that surprising at all because it's video games and entertainment, and VR is there from the very beginning. What's interesting for us, if we're enterprise developers, is the blue part of it. As you can see, there is a huge market for applications in basically every single sector: healthcare, education, manufacturing, engineering, and I mean, you name it, real estate. And as I said, I mean, the most common one I've seen on the market is basically creating all kinds of software for headsets for like preventive maintenance and service work, which is actually needed on the market. And big companies keep investing in it, and they want those solutions in their portfolio. Okay, so knowing all that we have all the devices right now available and that some more is coming in the future, I'm gonna do like a very brief history of digital transformations so that we can see where we're going on top of it. So at the very beginning, when we got like personal computers back in the days, that was first digital transformation because, well, we didn't have anything before. But what happened was people starting digitalizing stuff because, well, we did have personal computers, so we started inputting data and like saving them on disks, etc. Then came second digital transformation, which basically meant that we were given GUIs and the internet. And all of a sudden, more and more people were able to use the computers and enter even more data and then save it to the disks and to the internet. And all of a sudden, we had more and more data. And then came third digital transformation, which meant social media and handhelds, smartphones, tablets, etc. And that's where, well, all the hell broke loose, I guess, because the amounts of data that we started generating, pictures, videos, sensors data, content on social media, and anything. I mean, you know all of that because we live in this, mainly in this, in those days, is huge right now, and it's changed a lot. I mean, how many of you remember times before social media and smartphones? Yeah, I mean, it was different, like completely. I mean, we kind of don't like remember it like clearly, but if you think about it, it was really, really different. And only introduction of social media and smartphones, they changed a lot, right? And I mean, some people, they understood that we are on the verge of another digital transformation because there's this new wave of technologies that is coming, like edge computing, AR, VR, wearable, blockchain, cloud, 5G, AI, IoT, right? And with all of that, we understood that there's this new computing platform being created for us. It's no longer internet on our smartphones. It's going to be rather the thing that is that keeps coming, keeps show up on social media and media in general, like metaverse, mirror world, etc. That's what's being built. Those big companies, they're trying to figure out what's next, what's on the next level, and that's the second part of the story I'm telling, because there's a clear need for this metaverse thing, because right now all the AR and VR experiences, they kind of feel like the internet in the 90s. It's like we did have some websites, but they weren't truly connected with each other. We were on the internet, but we couldn't interact with each other very well. I mean, we did have IRC, right? I mean, it was fun, but the collaboration wasn't the way, wasn't the same as we have right now. We weren't able to create so much content as we can create right now. And the same actually applies for this new world, for those new experiences. Well, we have a bunch of AR games and applications and VR games, etc. But we are there on our own somehow. And there's this need for creating the common space where we can actually experience the same game and application together with other people and create content together, or like watch movie together, etc., etc. And that's where metaverse, mirror world, AR cloud, digital twin, spatial web, you name it, and because there are several names for that. I mean, the big company that comes in with this idea, usually they come up with, you know, a term for it. Actually, Facebook did the best work here when it comes to grabbing the name, because metaverse is like the term that was coined in I think 70s book by Stephen. Hold on, I just forgot the name. Anyway, the book was called Snow Crash. And that's a book from the 70s where the term metaverse was coined. And from now on, like every metaverse referred to that book. And what Facebook did, basically they renamed the company to be called Metaverse. And what they're doing, everything is metaverse. But there are several names out there. And the world still didn't figure out, okay, which name are we going to use? Is it going to be metaverse or mirror world or digital twin? Who knows? Generally, the concept is more or less the same in every of those ideas of the big companies. There are two ways here, like with the hardware. We have VR headsets or VR experiences and AR experiences. So metaverse for VR experiences would be something that Facebook is pushing right now pretty hard, which is basically creating this like fully digital world, big world where we can live as avatars without leaving our homes, and within those spaces we can have like parties with our friends, being there as avatars as well, and we can go to school or to work or collaborate with people, you know, in the workroom, having a whiteboard, etc. Have meetings like that, and they're doing pretty good job with that because they have like the product is named Horizon, and it's Horizon Home for your own stuff, Horizon Workrooms for like meetings, and Horizon World for like big scale games, etc. And have you watched the movie Ready Player One? No one? Yeah. So basically, what Facebook is doing right now with Horizon is they're trying to mimic whatever was in the book or movie Ready Player One. It seems so, at least. But the other part of this mirror world, AR cloud, digital twin thing is not to close ourselves within those artificial worlds and universes, but rather creating the digital twin of the physical environment that we live in, so that it's common and shared. And whenever I'm experiencing an AR something experience, for example, here on the stage, you would be, for example, wearing some kind of glasses, and you would be seeing the very same thing that I'm playing with right now here on the stage, right? But for this, we need some kind of infrastructure that would allow us to kind of synchronize our world, so that your world in AR and your world in AR is the same as mine, and we have the same coordinate systems, etc., 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 right? So it's not a very easy task to do. But this is this other part of the metaverse digital twin thing. And that might be not fully understand, because like on the media, we keep hearing metaverse, and Facebook, etc. So it seems like it's all about VR and closing ourselves at homes with VR headsets, and we're not going to go outside anymore. But it's not like that. It depends on which experience and which approach we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, as someone in one book, Spatial Web, mentioned, the spatial web or metaverse is like what World Wide Web was where like websites linked together. Right now we will have like everything connected. Just imagine like having the glasses and walking through the streets of your town, and then you have like you're connected to your shops, to cars, to other people, etc. And you have like all the information that you need or want appearing like next to those things, right? And then again, I'm going to go through all the big companies and we'll show what they're doing regarding that, the metaverse for AR. So first would be Facebook. I mentioned it, that they rather focus on the VR part of it and creating these horizon worlds. But like 3 years ago, they mentioned they're doing some kind of this approach as well, which was called live maps. That was way behind, way before they named themselves Meta. But I managed to capture back then this nice tweet, Facebook entry by Mark Zuckerberg, when he kind of hinted that, well, we're gonna change the name to something that is more appropriate to what we're doing, and then you know what happened. But what they were trying to do, I'm not sure right now if they keep working on it, but that was from then, like 3 years ago. So
to achieve this, Live Maps uses machine perception to construct multi-layer representations of the world,
like have
showing where you are in space,
access to sensors of some sort, like
recognizing what things look like,
using phones or
understanding the intrinsic
glasses,
meaning of
etc.,
objects,
and capture like live
connected
data of
devices,
everything that
like
is going on
smartphones and
around
AR
people.
glasses, will scan
And
the
based on
surroundings
that,
and create a
big
live
this
dynamic
huge
image,
cloud of points and
amplified by
like digital
crowdsourced
twin of the
data,
world or wherever we
allowing the
are,
maps to
right?
recognize
And
when
keep
points have
updating
changed,
it,
and
so
update
that
automatically.
every one of us that are using like glasses of some sort would know where we are and where we can put like 3D objects, so that anyone else can interact with it as well, right? That also brings lots of questions, lots of security issues, lots of other things. But I mean, we are talking about concepts here right now. It's not like they have product and they're scanning the world with, you know, some kind of glasses. But on the same conference, they actually showed they have a prototype of glasses, which are not truly AR glasses. It's called Project Aria, but they put like a bunch of sensors in there, and those are regular glasses, no displays there. But they gave it away to their workers and consultants, and you know, they're just using it for like scanning things and trying to figure out what we can do with the data, right? How we can figure out how we can create this digital twin of our surroundings. But that's Facebook. Then it's Microsoft. They have, Azure, but within Azure they have like a bunch of services, and one of the services is called Azure Spatial Anchors. And this is my favorite actually, because what it allows you to do, you can unlock it in your AR experience, and what it allows is, for example, I can designate wearing my glasses or phone. Actually, I can designate a point on the floor or on the wall, and that would become, for example, my coordinate system. And the app, the SDK of Azure Spatial Anchors, would kind of scan the direct area of that designated point and would create some kind of a point cloud. So, for example, you can see the area and let's assume that we have this point on the table somewhere. And what the device would do would create this kind of point cloud. Whatever, I mean, it's not readable for the human, but that point cloud would go to the Azure cloud and would be stored there, which is kind of secure because that means nothing basically for humans. But whenever the third party would come near that point I designated, it would start matching it with whatever is in the cloud, right? And if it would match whatever it detected around that point, that third party would get that same designated point, and it would become the coordinate system for that person as well. And what we have at this moment is that we have aligned our words, right? And we can have rendered same thing and interact with it together. And that's how we share our environments, right? And this is actually like a ready product. I used to use it in one of the solutions, and well, it's like you can go and use it and pay for it. It's not that very expensive actually, but yeah. And it works more or less like, I have a short video of this. It works like this. There is no audio, but it's what I described. But unless, I mean, if you didn't understand me, that visualizes is what I said. So it's pretty simple in using, and the effects are astounding because, well, all of a sudden we can share the experience, and it's cross-platform because if you grab the point cloud of your environment on HoloLenses, and you would save it as a HoloLens spatial anchor, a user with iPhone would kind of translate it because the SDK is capable of doing it. And just imagine, I mean, you can create all sorts of like city games. Imagine like placing things around the city and then allowing users to search things within the city, right? Just as an example. Or based on this, imagine you have like a factory floor with a like bunch of equipments, and whenever you approach one equipment on the factory floor and you detect it that you're at this point that you designated at the very beginning of like configuring it, then all of a sudden you can display like all sorts of, for example, dashboards for this piece of equipment, right? And you have everything in front of your eye. Next is Apple, and Apple has very similar thing to spatial anchors, but it's kind of simpler, and it's only unlocked in like several cities worldwide, like San Francisco, New York, London, etc. And you can basically achieve what you can achieve with Azure Spatial Anchors. And Google has pretty much the same thing with like, but it's called cloud anchors. But also what Google has is they're the nearest, they have the biggest amount of data to be the nearest to have like a digital twin of our world because they have Street View. So basically they already do have a digital twin of the world, right? So, so whenever someone, for example, approaches me and tells, hey, are we going to allow Facebook to scan like the whole world? I'm like, we have Street View already, right? I mean, Google already did that. And I mean, it's funny that people are like, whenever they hear Facebook, they're already like afraid, oh no, let's not allow them to do that. But Google has already done that. And that's funny understanding of how the company works, those company works. Anyway, what Google has is VPS, it's Visual Positioning System. And with all the data from Street View, they actually kind of fixed GPS, because whenever whenever you're in the city, sometimes the GPS is not that accurate. I mean, usually GPS is not that accurate, but with a visual positioning system, if you would run Google Maps on your phone and you would enter the AR view, it's called live streets or something like that, and you would put your camera in front of you based on all the points that the camera sees, and it would match with all the massive database of whatever Street View pictures they have in the cloud and all the magic algorithms would run, they would actually position yourself way better than the GPS, you know? And with that, they kind of fixed it. And if you haven't tried it, you can actually go to Google Maps, and if you navigate somewhere and put the walking mode, not the car mode, you can go to this AR view and just look at the navigation through the, have you tried it already? Yeah. Yeah, but what that proves is that possible. But then think about like next iteration, then the glasses or something like that. Then I mean, because we have to think about it that they're iterating on it, right? So all of a sudden, when the technology will be there, bam, we will have glasses, and everything will just move from the phones to the glasses. I have a video how it works, so.
You open the camera.
We have like arrows floating around you and showing you where to go, or name of the streets, or
Instantly.
imagine you can have
You
everything
instantly
there,
know
right?
where you
like
are.
you approach
No
some
futzing with the phone.
shop or something, you
All
can
the
have like
information on the map,
menu from the
street names,
restaurant,
the
or like
directions,
the
right there in
current
front of you.
discounts or whatever,
Notice that
like
you also
everything,
see the map,
right?
so that way you stay oriented.
Then imagine having
You can
glasses
start to see
and
nearby
having this
places,
technology being
so you see
common,
what's around
right?
you.
Just imagine what kind of software will be
And
needed
just for fun,
to be
our
created
team's
by
been
software
playing with an
developers
idea
for
of
all the
adding a
companies
helpful
basically in the
guide,
world, especially
like that there,
retail. That's gonna be
so that you can
madness.
show you the way.
That was at the very end was actually a fun example of, maybe it's not that important, but it's a small thing that, as you can see, with Google and those outdoor experiences and Street View data, we know where are all the buildings, we know where are all the corners, etc. So if something is around the corner actually, the physical corner actually occludes that digital thing, which even adds up on the immersion, right? It's a small thing, but it's very important actually to convince our brains that it's a real thing. And on top of that, for example, NVIDIA, well, we know they have like lots of computing power, but they also have their own version of concept of the metaverse, but they call it omniverse. And basically, this is, I just wanted to show you one slide that shows that they're doing something like that. But what they described is basically also everything connected together, like physical world to the internet, to the digital thing, twin of everything, to like AI, physics, and then having all the like content creators using USD protocol, which is something they came up with. They name it as it's HTML for the HTML for the web. That's USD is for the omniverse. That basically the content creators use their tools like Autodesk or whatever, and they create stuff and they update it, and it updates in the omniverse in the real time, etc. So it's, but well, they keep talking about it, and it was CEO of NVIDIA telling all the stories about omniverse on stage like a year ago or 2 years ago. Also, there are like a bunch of smaller companies, startups, etc., that are creating their versions or approaches or solving small problems when it comes to those metaverses or AR cloud. Because, as you probably understand, I mean, there are like millions of small problems to solve, and then we have to put it together to create like larger solution. Given that, what I've shown you, it's basically tools that we have at hand that we can start leveraging to create like big scale AR experiences that we saw, for example, in the movies. Like You know what that movie was? From what movie that screen is? Altered Carbon on Netflix. So yeah, for example, I mean, we've seen those science fiction movies where we had like holograms everywhere, etc., like big advertisements. I'm not saying we're gonna have this like dark cyberpunk dystopia out there, but I'm telling about those holograms. I mean, we kind of can create all of that right now. Maybe not everyone will be able to experience that, but we can prepare ourselves as developers so that when it comes in and it hits mainstream, we know what to do, right? So I highly motivate you to do that if you're interested. Those are the books that inspired me to all what I said and the visions for the future and what to work on. And yeah, that's usually the slide when I wait for questions from the audience. So that's it. Thank you. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask.